Hey, what's up guys? It's Team Hardlife Captain Alberto Zertuche here. We've got our next video in the series of how to build your sail line from scratch. As we stated before, you can't buy them anywhere, and if you do, you know, you're kind of at the will, mercy of those who are building it for you. In my first video, I stated on how I always like to overbuild everything, and there's a reason for it. I tend to beat it up. I mean, it's going to get used, it's going to get fished, it's going to get put through the ringer. I don't want it to fail on me, so I overbuild everything, because just in case a massive school of fish come through and you catch them all, well then, man, you can take a lot of good pictures, you can have a healthy stringer and go home pretty happy instead of seeing your sail line sail away into the wind. So, again, this is going to be our starting project right here. We've got the monofilament. We've got our glow-in-the-dark beads that we're going to use. We're going to go with the light blue on this one. We've got pink and orange in the chartreuse as well. Got our 1.3 double mini sleeves. We've got our 1/0 swivels. And we're going to get started there. Stay tuned. From the sail to the farthest float can only be 200 feet. So within that area is what we'll divide up our 20 hooks and our 5 floats. What we try to do is between 180 foot, we'll put our 20 hooks in there, which gives about a 5 to 6 foot gap between both hooks, which also allows for the hooks to not have any area for them to hook up into when they're too close. Also too, if a fish catches on one hook, he's not sitting there taking off with multiple hooks because he sees multiple baits. So first step is cutting the monofilament to the size we're going to use and start with, and then we'll start measuring it out and putting our placement for our swivel and bleeds and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding on my sleeves, my beads, my swivels in the pattern that I want to set up, so that way I can attach my floats at the same time. So here we go. Here what I'm doing, this is my first pattern. What I've done is I've put a gap between these two swivels, and the reason for it is because one will contain my float rig and the other one's going to contain my drop. But if I have them too close, they end up catching up on each other and it doesn't work properly. So that's my first pattern. Second one will be for my hooks. These are the drops for the hooks. So it's nice and simple. And then what I'll keep doing is I'm going to make 4 more of these sets to every set of these. Alright, so I've got my float set, I got my drop set right there, and now I'm back to my float set again. So I just got to repeat this pattern 3 more times and I'll be good to go. I've got my pattern set up, which I'm going to do a close-up here in just a little bit. However, the way we set up our cell line and our leader line is with the long line clip. So here I'm going to put an offshore loop real quick. I'm going to crimp this. And this will be our starting point from where we will count out our 180 feet of line and set it up and crimp everything as we go along. So this is our starting point. Alright, so here's our finished setup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Okay, now these double ups, like I said, one's for the float, one's for the hook. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start crimping and spacing everything for the sizes that I want to use. So what I was able to do is hide the connection point inside there because I'm using double mini crimps, but you can see the ends of the mono come out on either side, and that's my connection point. So it looks like I didn't cut it, but if you look closely you'll be able to see it. Big old heavy duty swivel. Yep. And that's our close up. This will be from our last float. And the reason you need to do this is so that way when your sail is out and you got all these floats floating across the water, if a boat wants to come by, he knows at the back end of this there's a weight, so he can drive behind your sail and not cut you off or get your line stuck in his boat. So now that I've got my whole leader set up right there, what I got to do now is do the drops. Here comes the fun part. So for our drop sections, I'm going to be using the 100-pound test. And I'm going to make these 18 inches long. Well, that's with the hook. So I'm going to start off with 20. So by the time I curve back, it'll be 18 inches. Which will guarantee that my hooks don't cross up when a fish is hooked up. But still, you know, when you hook up one fish, that other fish try to steal the bait out of his mouth. So as he's swimming left to right, the other fish will get onto the next hooks and so forth. So this may increase his chances for a lot more fish. Alright, so now I've got my 20 drop sections. Now to attach the hooks. Alright, so for my drop sections, I'm going to be using the 1.0 double barrel sleeves. These fit beautifully over the 100-pound test. Nice and snug, so that way when we crimp, we don't have to overly crimp like crazy to get them to hold very well. Alright guys, so we have completed our drop sections. Now we need to attach them to our sail line leader section. However, to properly store it, we're going to get a 5-gallon bucket. We're going to cut slots in it so that way as we're putting on our drops, we can safely store them away inside our 5-gallon bucket. The beauty about it is it'll properly store the whole rig with hooks and floats all in one area. And then all you have is your sail line and then your spooling station. So let's get to the bucket. Alright guys, what I've done is I've gotten a simple 5-gallon bucket. The reason why we chose this one is because of this lip right here. If you look underneath it, there's gaps. And what we intend on doing is underneath there is where we're going to put our notch so that our hooks can come through out on this side. What I'll do is it'll allow for this to have a little bit of protection for the hooks so they don't catch up on anything as they're sitting in the bucket. And we'll show you what that means here in just a little bit, but let's get to cutting. Alright, what I also got to do is do my indentation cut so my weight and swivel can stay on the outside, as well as it also holds my long line clip in place as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut on the outside. And yes, I would highly recommend doing this outside because as you can tell, it has snowed in Hard Life Bait and Tackle. Now, there's a lot of the small burr on there, and a lot of it can come off with your hand, or if you want, you can take a small knife and just hit it up on the inside and the outside. I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. Alright, so now that we've got our storage bucket, we can start putting our rig together. And what I like to do is I will start with the weight. That'll be the first one to go in. And as you can see, the notch I cut in, I went diagonally with it. There was a reason for that. And so that way, when I pull this way, you can pull the swivel out and it won't go anywhere. So that really does help. And then as you're putting it in, all you're doing is going to feed it in just like this. Well, obviously I've hit my first one, so let's go and put a hook on and see how this is going to come together. Now, it really doesn't matter which of the swivels you put this on, because either way they're far enough apart that it shouldn't matter. So alright, so to close out, now all you have to do with your long line clip right in, and it'll sit right there. So now your hook ain't gonna get tangled up. And then, like I said, the lip on the outside is there so that way you don't hook yourself. Now obviously if you're trying, you are gonna hook yourself, but for the most part, you're good to go just like that. So, check to see how it looks inside. Oh, there it is. There's all nice hooks, all nice and neat. And even then too, it's balled up like this is we did not unwind the main line, and that's why it's like that. However, if you like for it to sit very flat at the bottom, what you have to do is before you start doing all of this is stretch it all the way out and let it untwist as you're making the leader, and it'll all sit nice and flat at the very bottom. Now, here's the cool part about this whole situation. Y'all remember my Mardi Gras beads, right? Well, these are the floats that we're going to use for this. What I like to do though, so that way I can keep them all pretty much in a tame space, is this. You lock them in, so this ensures that none of your floats get lost at the end of the day. So the other thing is, keep them right in there. So now that you got your sail line, you got your bucket here. Oh, look, I have dropped it. Oh man. Normally when you do that, all your hooks come flying out. Well, not on this setup, so that just gives you an idea. Everything's still nice and neat in there. And now, you got your sail, got your bucket with your hooks. Our next video will be of us actually building the housing that will contain the motor, the spool for the line, and kind of doing the hookup. The final video will be of us going out and using it. Weather permitting, because it's been crazy lately. Texas can't make up its mind on what kind of weather it wants to have. It's either hot and steamy or cold and wet and windy, and we're still going fishing. Just saying. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, you need to. You pass the word, share the knowledge with everybody else you know, and let them know what we got to offer. And there's still so much more to come. We appreciate everybody's positive input, and we'll see you on the next one.